Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was not just a musical sensation but also a complex figure in Hollywood, influenced by an unexpected ally and haunted by his own ambitions. While the world knew him as the Colonel's star, there was another key player in his life, Norman Taurog. Unlike the notorious Colonel Parker, who controlled Elvis's public image and finances, Taurog represented a gentler influence. Elvis himself admitted, "I loved him," revealing a side of Elvis that was more vulnerable and appreciative. Taurog's role was pivotal yet often overlooked. He was more than just a director to Elvis, he was a mentor and a friend. The two first crossed paths in Palm Springs at a dinner party. Taurog, eager to impress, regaled the crowd with tales of his cunning tactics against Hollywood bigwigs. He recounted how he once tricked producer Hal Wallis by sewing cheap labels and expensive suits, making Wallis think he was dealing with a rural naif. This story, meant to showcase Taurog's sharp wit, instead painted Elvis's director as someone who could see through elaborate schemes. Yet despite this, Elvis held Taurog in high regard, even gifting him a Cadillac, though it was one that couldn't be driven, given Taurog's blindness. Elvis's relationship with Taurog was warm and genuine, a stark contrast to his interactions with Colonel Parker. This dichotomy highlights the duality of Elvis's life in Hollywood, one side under the watchful, if manipulative, eye of Parker, and the other under the supportive gaze of Taurog. Meanwhile, Elvis's films were not merely a byproduct of his music career, but a carefully managed business venture. Wallis, the producer, saw Elvis not just as an actor but as a brand, a product to be leveraged for higher budget projects. He made Elvis films so that he could make higher-brow movies of the Tennessee Williams books, explains Michael Hoey, a contemporary of Elvis's. This strategy meant that while Elvis was making movies like Fun in Acapulco, Wallis could pursue more prestigious projects. Elvis's role in these films was multifaceted. Some of his performances showed a genuine try at acting, reflecting his desire to be taken seriously as an artist. However, he never aspired to be a major movie star, content instead with being a good actor in a world dominated by legends like Brando and James Dean. He was a star who wanted to be a good actor but not necessarily a major movie star, Hoey notes. This modesty and ambition was a defining trait of Elvis's approach to acting. Despite this, Elvis was not without his moments of power and whimsy on set. Susanna Lee, an actress from Paradise, Hawaiian Style, recalled how Elvis once intervened when another actress was being overly flattering to him. Elvis popped up and said, "Tomorrow, I'll have her in a black wig," and then he ordered the wigs, Lee said. This incident showcased Elvis's ability to assert himself, even if it was in a light-hearted manner. However, Elvis's experiences on set were not always positive. He expressed deep dissatisfaction with the films he made, calling them teeny bopper movies with no real meaning. "The studios are making millions off me, Colonel Parker is making millions, but I'm just here to make money," he confided in his hairdresser. His desire was to connect with live audiences, where he felt the true energy of his performances. Elvis's own feelings about his films varied, but George Klein, a close friend, noted that while Elvis didn't love all his movies, he did appreciate some, like Blue Hawaii. Even so, he was critical of the repetitive scripts and songs, feeling trapped in a formulaic cycle. He wanted to change things, but the same story kept coming up, Klein said. Elvis even contemplated altering the narrative of Priscilla, a film about a love triangle, suggesting a desire for more complexity in his roles. Despite these frustrations, Elvis remained a complex figure, both admired and misunderstood. Michael Hoey, who worked with him, initially found him somewhat lightweight but came to respect his talent over time. Elvis's journey in Hollywood was marked by a struggle to balance his musical legacy with his aspirations as an actor, all while navigating the treacherous waters of Hollywood politics. In the end, Elvis's story is one of a star who never fully found his place in the Hollywood machine, yet left an indelible mark on both music and film. His relationship with figures like Norman Taurog and Hal Wallis and his own inner conflicts paint a picture of a man caught between dreams and reality, always striving but never quite achieving the full recognition he sought as an actor. Elvis Presley was a star, no doubt about that. But when it came to the songs he sang, it was a different story. The people who wrote his music, like songwriter Don Robertson, often felt they held the real power. They would craft the tunes and lyrics, and Elvis, along with his manager, known to everyone as the Colonel, would decide what made it into his performances. It was like a dance, with the songwriters leading and Elvis following, though sometimes he would take a step or two in his own direction. When a new song was ready, the team would gather for meetings. These meetings were serious affairs, a bit like a military operation. Everyone would bring their demos, these are like early versions of the songs, and discuss them over music. Glenn Campbell, a musician who often did demo recordings, would play these demos. Elvis would listen, make his thoughts known, but often once the song was recorded, he wouldn't complain too much, even if he didn't love the song at first. The Colonel had the final say. Working in Hollywood changed things for Elvis and the songs he sang. His friend Don Robertson wrote many of his hits, like Anything That's Part of You and There's Always Me. Robertson liked to write songs with a personal touch, sometimes with a bit of humor. One song he wrote had lyrics like, "When evening shadows fall, now it's time to ball," which shows his playful side. Other songs like I'm Yours and They Remind Me Too Much of You also became big hits. Robertson had a unique way of writing. He would often create lyrics that were a little cheeky, blending his love for gospel music with his own style. Though he went to church as a child, his family didn't go, which made his music a bit unusual. He even snuck into churches to sing, despite his parents being atheists. This mix of influences made his songs stand out and appealed to Elvis. The friendship between Robertson and Elvis started in 1961. Elvis had just gone through a tough divorce and had little left but his piano. A mutual friend introduced them. Elvis was impressed by Robertson's talent, and the two quickly began working together. When Elvis first heard I'm Counting on You, he knew it was perfect for him. The song was ready before they even met, and Elvis loved it right away. When Robertson met Elvis in his studio, the atmosphere was casual. Elvis wore a captain's hat, and they chatted for a bit before getting down to business. Elvis shared how grateful he was for the opportunities he had, saying he might still be driving a truck without his music career. He showed genuine appreciation for the songwriters. Robertson explained how he created songs inspired by Elvis. For instance, he wanted Margarita to feel like flamenco, so he spent an evening at a club listening to the music, trying to capture its spirit. Not all songs became hits, though. I'm Gonna Like It Here, written for a movie, didn't make it into the final film, even though Elvis loved it. Sometimes movies change plans and songs get left behind. One interesting story is about a song originally meant for Johnny Cash, What Next, Where To? Cash didn't like it, but Elvis did. It was easy for Elvis to work with this tune. Robertson said Elvis could understand and bring out the best in a song. He even adjusted his own songwriting to think of Elvis when he created new music. This worked well because Elvis was a romantic singer, and romantic songs suited his style. Elvis's wife Irene was part of this creative world too. She remembered meeting Robertson and Elvis right after his divorce, sitting in a coffee shop, hopeful someone would take a picture. It was a simple, happy moment amidst the chaos of stardom. However, not everyone saw Elvis in such a positive light. Sonny West, a close friend, spoke of Elvis's temper and the challenges of working with him. West recounted how Elvis would get angry and even punch him, though Elvis would sometimes apologize later. These outbursts were not new, they had been happening for a while, revealing a more complex side to the iconic star. Despite these difficulties, the collaboration between Elvis and his songwriters continued. The dance of creativity kept going, with songwriters crafting music and Elvis bringing his own flair to each performance. It was a partnership marked by both admiration and frustration, but ultimately it produced some of the most beloved music in history. Elvis's final days were marked by struggles both seen and unseen. The star's behavior had changed dramatically. Once carefree and kind, he became paranoid and short-tempered. This shift was partly due to the drugs he was taking. These drugs, meant to ease pain and help sleep, turned him into a different person. A key figure in Elvis's life, his friend and confidant, shared how drugs deeply affected Elvis. Elvis wasn't just taking prescribed medicine. He also used cough syrup and sleeping pills, along with other substances. This wasn't just a personal choice, it was a desperate attempt to cope with the pressures of fame and personal issues. One friend recounted how Elvis even became aware of the drugs given to him by others. He once received a parcel with Demerol, a painkiller, in it. This came from Max Shapiro, a dentist who later married into Elvis's inner circle. When confronted, Shapiro warned the friend he would get in trouble if he repeated this. Despite this, Elvis knew something was deeply wrong. The medical community wasn't immune to the controversy surrounding Elvis. Dr. Nick, his personal doctor, faced charges from the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners. They claimed he overprescribed medication, including to Elvis. However, Dr. Nick maintained he only gave Elvis what he needed for specific health issues like strep throat, blood pressure, and diabetes. He insisted Elvis didn't seek drugs from him alone, as he could get them from other doctors. Despite this, the use of heavy clothes made from synthetic materials added to Elvis's health woes. These clothes were suffocating, making it hard for him to breathe comfortably. This physical discomfort likely compounded the effects of the drugs he was taking. Dr. Nick and Elvis's manager, known as the Colonel, had differing views on how to handle Elvis's health and career. The Colonel was often harsh, even using physical discipline when he felt Elvis wasn't respecting others or himself. This approach, while extreme, came from a place of concern for Elvis's well-being, though it clearly failed. As Elvis prepared for another tour, even his closest allies sensed something was deeply wrong. 5 days before the tour was set to begin, Dr. Nick gave him a complete physical exam and found nothing alarming. However, weeks earlier, Elvis had already passed a comprehensive health insurance checkup. These medical clearances, while reassuring at the time, couldn't foresee the future. Some in Elvis's entourage believed he couldn't continue. They saw the toll the drugs, poor diet, and relentless work schedule were taking on him. His body had visibly changed. What was once a lean, youthful performer was now a man burdened by weight and health issues. His face was bloated, hardly recognizable from the vibrant image of his earlier years. Despite these clear signs, Elvis and his team decided to push forward. They believed they could manage, that this would be the final tour, the one that would bring everything to a close on their terms. But fate had other plans. Elvis's story serves as a cautionary tale about the price of fame, the dangers of drug use, and the complexities of managing a superstar's health and well-being. It highlights how even the brightest stars can fall victim to their own demons, and how those around them struggle to help when the problems run deep.